Hey, I'm Kai, and today I'm checking out the brand new Squier Hello Kitty Stratocaster. Let's get it unboxed and then we'll get into some disgusting high gain metal tones shortly after. So this is the main shipping box it comes in, no sort of Hello Kitty branding or anything, but just a standard shipping box. So this one does come with a quite nice Hello Kitty branded gig bag. It's quite a nice robust feeling gig bag as well. It's not like a flimsy wallet sort of gig bag. This is a good giggable bag, I'd say. Okay, so let's do the thing. Let's get this out of the case. Well, this is something I've never seen. It's a completely reflective foil covering the guitar. Maybe that's to protect it from temperature and humidity adjustments. Interesting. So here it is, the 2024 Squier Hello Kitty Stratocaster. I'll show you the front and the back on the B cam quickly so you can get a good look at that. Let's do it that way around. There we go. First thing I've noticed, it's a nice lightweight. I'd say this is about the £7 mark. Nice and comfortable, about what you'd expect for a Stratocaster really, but not super lightweight like feeling like a kid's toy. The neck is finished in a gloss finish, but it feels like a quite high quality thing, nice and comfortable. Giving it a quick once over, everything seems to be in order. It seems to be set up with a fairly decent action. Looks to be strung with D'Addario strings. These are a 9-42 set. Yeah, everything feels high quality so far. Let's plug it into my EVH 5153 and check out some clean tones. Okay, actually, before I plug it in, I've just got it all tuned up to E standard, and the first thing I've noticed is that everything feels really good so far. The tuners are really nice and high quality, nice and smooth to turn, nice good action to them, and the guitar sounds so loud acoustically, it's really nice. Let's just hear this through my desktop microphone first before I go through a proper clean tone. I'm enjoying that, let's plug it in. So I'd say overall this feels like a pretty standard guitar. I'd say there's nothing really remarkable about it. It doesn't feel amazing or anything, but it's also not bad at all, and it does sound pretty good. So I've given the frets a quick check over just to see if there's any high frets and low frets and that sort of thing, and the only thing I noticed was that the D string nut slot is cut a little bit slightly too low, so this does buzz a little bit, but I think when I switch out to some higher gauge strings, this won't be a problem. Also, I apologise for the outside noise. I've got my hedges being trimmed right now, but this guitar just showed up and I couldn't have it sat in a box. So let's get into something of an overview. In case you're unaware, this is a reissue of the Squier Hello Kitty Stratocaster from quite a while ago. They've sort of become a modern classic kind of thing, with lots of people buying them up and scalping them, selling them for triple the price that they went for new, so Squier were pretty smart in reissuing this one. I think something about the ironic nature of using a Hello Kitty guitar for rock and metal and punk and that sort of thing gave it a quirky little charm and a whole life of its own in amongst that sort of subculture. The specs on this are entirely unremarkable, but that's kind of the point. Most people buy these as a sort of mod platform. We have a poplar body, we have a maple neck, maple fingerboard, 9.5-inch radius and a 25.5-inch scale length. The nut is a synthetic bone, the pickup is a Fender-designed Alnico humbucker, and the bridge is your standard sort of Strat hardtail flat mount. The electronics on this guitar are super simple. You've got the one humbucker, wire to a volume knob, and then to the output jack. You've got no push-pull for coil splits, no tone knob, nothing like that. Super simple, just stripped down to the core essentials. Also, I much prefer this position of the volume knob and the output jack compared to standard Stratocasters. It's just so much more comfortable for me. The tuners on this one seem quite nice. They're the vintage split post style tuners, and they've actually got the sort of classic styling rather than the stuff you'd see on Squier Affinities, for instance. I'll see if I can get that on the B cam. While the original Squier Hello Kitties were made in Indonesia, this was made in China. Now, I couldn't really figure out whether this belonged to the Affinity line or the Classic Vibe, but everything about it seems to lead me towards it being the Classic Vibe line. It's got a gloss neck, which you don't see on any of the Affinity models, and the back of the headstock styling with the logo and the branding and everything like that seemed much more in line with the classic vibes that were previously made in China than the Affinities which were previously made in China. Now the price of this guitar is £419 here in the UK, though you can get it a little bit cheaper depending on where you're shopping. I think this would put it more in line with the classic vibes in terms of pricing, however it's really difficult to tell if that's just because the Hello Kitty branding is pushing the price up. A quick side note here actually, if Squier are in the mood for reissuing more of these cult classic, highly sought after, heavily scalped online guitars, it'd be great to see them do the Squier Vintage Modified Baritone Jazzmaster next. That's one that I've really wanted, but can't justify paying £900 for. I'm going to quickly dial in a crunch tone on the 5153, and then I'll get into some more deeper dives into the quality control. I did also notice when I was tuning up that it kept getting bunched up in the sort of string retainer up at the headstock. It kept like pinging and stuff like that, so I'll probably swap this one out for a roller at some point. Generally it feels pretty good to play. I'm usually not a fan of gloss necks, but this one feels pretty good in the hands. I think I'll probably scratch this one down with something like a Scotch Brite pad just to get it a little bit smoother. The actual frets is, you know, one of the hardest things to get right on a cheaper guitar, and I have to say they've nailed it here. The frets are super smooth, super shiny, nicely polished. No sharp edges, nothing like that, no high spots, no low spots. They just generally feel great to play on. The only real issues I've encountered are everything sort of behind the nut. So we've got a little bit of ringing at the nut where the nut's been cut slightly too low. We've got a little bit of tuning instability going on, and this standard string tree is an absolute nightmare to use. I'm going to take a very quick break, tune this one down to drop D with 10 to 54 gauge strings so that we can run through some heavier tones. Is it a bad omen that the string ferrule has fallen out as I'm restringing the guitar? Oh well. Oh, actually, make that 2 of the string ferrules. Also, I noticed the coloured ball ends and wrongly assumed that these were D'Addario strings, but they're definitely not, they're just coloured ball ends. Another one of the ferrules has fallen out, so that makes 3. That's half of the ferrules have fallen out the back of this guitar already. Let's get that on the B cam. It's also interesting to see a protective cover over the pickup, but not any of the actual main pickguard. It's fairly strange. Forgot I need to add my ferrule back on. It's alright, I'm sure that's something I can fix with super glue down the line if that becomes a problem at any point. Okay, so I've not done a full setup or anything, but I have now got it tuned to drop D with the 10 to 54 gauge strings. One of the other ferrules fell out while I was doing this, so really not happy with the ferrule job on this. I think I'm just going to glue them in so that they'll be safe. Alright, let's hear it with the same crunch tone but now in drop D. I do have plans to take this tuning lower in future. I think I'd like to go down to drop A or so, but for a first review unboxing thing, I didn't want to have to go through that whole effort. I wanted to just stick a set of strings on that I knew would sort of work. I am curious to hear how this Hello Kitty guitar sounds with fuzz, so let's hear it through the Life is Unfair Bad Machine. But this guitar feels fantastic to play and it does sound great, so once I've got a couple of the very minor issues sorted, I'm sure it's going to be great. So before I get into the high gain metal tones with the 5150, if you're enjoying this video, drop a like, drop a subscribe, drop a comment letting me know what you think of the Squier Hello Kitty, and let's get back to it. For this tone I'm running the Squier into my EVH 5153 red channel, and I've got the 14 Zool noise gate in the loop. I do have some mods planned for this, obviously, but I can't go into too much of them yet because a lot of them are still in progress. What I can tell you is that I'm going to be swapping the pickup out for something custom, and I'll be swapping the volume knob out for a single on-off switch instead, just to keep this super stripped down. If these stock tuners do start playing nice for me and they stay in tune, I'm going to stick with them because I like the classic stylings on this. I'll definitely be swapping the string tree out for something that's roller instead because that'll be a lot more stable than the current one, and I may swap the nut out if that's something that's needed. I imagine I'll probably be adding a DiMarzio clip lock strap with this one, as I do with most of my guitars. I'll probably go for a nice pink one just to match it nicely. Now, I have been asked about whether or not I'm going to be putting a baritone conversion neck on it, but given that it's got the matching headstock, I don't think I can do that. If it was the original one, maybe it'd be a little bit of a different story, but this headstock just looks so good and so in keeping with the rest of the guitar that I couldn't do it. So that's everything that I've got for my demo of the Squier Hello Kitty Stratocaster. Let me know what you thought of it in the comment section down below. Other than these slight issues I've had, I would say this is about what you'd expect for a £419 guitar, so I'd say this is probably more in line with the classic vibe than it is the affinities. I don't think they've added some major markup just for the nostalgia factor of it being the Hello Kitty guitar. This feels like a step up from the super budget range, so it's definitely not a £100 guitar that they've just stuck a higher price tag on. This does feel like you'd expect to get for this price point. So I actually had to turn the camera back on because as I was taking some photos of this guitar, I noticed something very strange about it. I think the truss rod is rattling around inside the neck. Amendment on the amendment. I've tightened up the truss rod and it's no longer clicking when I shake it about, so it's also nicely cleared up the buzzing I had at the D string, so yeah, I guess it's worth doing. Before I go, chainsaw. It's just too much fun. Okay, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking around to the end. I do appreciate it. If you wanted to check out another one of my videos, there's going to be a link on screen for you to do so. Otherwise, that's all for this one. I've been Kai.